Martin, stepping down as chairman, that came a bit of a bolt out of the blue for most people.
Well, I think we've spoken about it for a while, that we had to have a succession plan. And when we had the sustainability review that we led over the last year, part of that was to say, what is the ongoing ownership, what is the ongoing management of the club? So I think it's a logical extension from that, but I think it's the right time. At the AGM, there was a lot of positive messages about particularly finance, how we've cleared up a lot of the historic issues that we've had at the club. We're really, for the first time, in a position that we're not just wondering where the next pound's coming from as a board. We've now got a position where we can start really planning for the future. So I think this is a great time for somebody else to come in and pick up the challenges that lie ahead.
You're leaving them some good building blocks, Martin. You've got a well-renowned academy in youth development, AstroTurf pitch. You've got a nice stadium. Finances are steady. A lot better than when you took over, probably.
Well, I've been here from quite a while, because it goes right back, my involvement in the club's right back to coming out of provisional liquidation in '98. And I think in that time, there's many things I think we forget about that we should be proud of. We're proud of the fact we took it out of provisional liquidation in '98, paying every penny in the pound that was owed. I think the work that we did collectively to get out of Brockville, we loved Brockville, but we had to move, and to come down to the stadium was a big step forward. I think some of the other things you've just mentioned, we have a lot of achievement. As you say, the academy, we've got young players coming through. We've got a fantastic reputation throughout football, not just in Scotland, both in the academy side, but also even in the community side. So there's an awful lot that we've done. There's an awful lot that I actually do feel quite proud of, things that we have achieved as a club over the period I've been here.
Martin, you spoke about succession. Who's next for the hot seat?
Well, I think the easiest thing would be just to let the rest of them fight it out amongst themselves and decide who wants to be chairman. We'll let them put a little bit more order to it than that. No, it has been discussed at board level. The choice of a chairman is a board decision. The choice of the directors are chosen by the shareholders, in the fact that they're put to the general meeting for a vote. But it's the board that decides who the next chairman should be. And the board will take soundings from some of the larger shareholders as well to see what they think. But we want to get on and moving. Having said that we want to make a change, I think it's only fair to the next person coming in is that we try to do that in a smooth and not too elongated way.
If you could give them one bit of advice, Martin, what would it be?
I think the main thing I would say is that I think the main thing you've got to do at a football club is to hold all the different parties together. The chairman, we don't have a club where we've got a chairman owner as such who makes all the decisions and calls all the shots. The chairman basically chairs the meetings. He often is a spokesman, and so because he's a spokesman, people think that's the chairman's decision, that was Martin Ritchie's decision, Martin Ritchie said that, or whatever. But that's not really the case. The chairman's speaking for the board. I think what the board has got to recognise, the new chairman's got to recognise, that a club is made up of many people who are not employees, there are volunteers, there are many people who are staff, there are all the different parts that go around the football club, and somehow you've got to hold all of these people together, because it's only when you hold all of these people together that you make progress.
Andy, warm welcome to Falkirk TV. Strange to be on the other side of the camera.
Very strange for me, yes, Tony, it is.
Andy, you've been on the board now probably about 3 years. I wonder if you could describe for the viewers at home the kind of situation, the status the club was in when you joined the board.
Oh, it's make no history for anybody. We all know what the story was. We'd come down from the Premier Division carrying a whole lot of very big costs. Revenue just wasn't matching it, and it really stemmed back probably before that to the collapse of the Satanta deal, and so many clubs found themselves in real trouble. But that stemmed from the fact they probably budgeted to spend money before they actually got it. And in a football club business, it's really all about cash. I mean, okay, you've got credits and all the rest of the stuff, but it's a cash-based business, and you can't really plan to spend money that you don't actually have. In saying that, it's a most complex business, because effectively what you've got is you've got a whole lot of fixed cost, which is your players' and management contracts, and you've got a variable income, which is your gate receipts and so on. And your gate receipts, your variable income, depends on your fixed costs. So it's a tricky business to be in. But yeah, the club was financially just needed to be sorted out, and that meant matching your income to your expenditure. and then after we'd done that, making sure that we could balance the budget, continue with the strategy that we had planned to do, and even then, in that time, Stephen Presley was the manager, and we said to him at that time we had an under-17s, under-19s in the first team, and really we said to him, well, you can have the 17s or the 19s, which one do you want? And he made a great decision in keeping the 17s. Now that meant that we had a couple of years, really tough years, but it meant we were blooding players in our first team, and we've seen how they've developed, the Scott Arfields, the Conor McGrandles, the Craig Sibbolds, Stephen Kingsley, all those players, Jay Fulton, all those players that have gone on to do better things, and it's been a great basis for the club to move forward on. Moving forward, well, again, as I say, we had to get income and expenditure aligned, and we've done that. And again, it's all credit to the supporters and the suppliers, everybody who's financially involved with this football club, because it's been tough. We know it's been tough. But before you can move forward, you've got to make sure you've got a firm foundation, and hopefully we've now established that. We're not out of the woods by any manner of means, but at least we can see the other side of the wood now, and hopefully we'll get there.
You're talking about, Andy, about being out of the woods. Last night at the AGM, some positive news on debt management and reducing the debt?
Well, every club in Scotland wants to reduce their debt because, I mean, if you've got debt on your balance sheet, you're paying interest on it. It's just like you've got an overdraft, you're paying interest on it. As a result, before you start, you can be behind, if you know, in terms of finance. So we had an opportunity to reduce the debt, and it was really a one-off opportunity. I mean, we had over £500,000 worth of debt on the books. The lenders have been fantastic because remember, we have no overdraft, and therefore when we needed extra cash to carry us through the lean times, they were there and they lent us the cash. And I've heard terms like soft loans and stuff. A loan is a loan, and it's a responsibility, it's a liability of the club. Now what we've done is, for about almost 50% of that total value, we've cleared the debt off. So 37,000 was converted into shares, 187,000 was written off by the lenders, and so we paid back much less than we should have, and that saves us £100,000 over the terms of those loans. So if you add that lot up, it's over £300,000 you've saved, and you've paid back £300,000 to the lenders. And hopefully not, but should we require it, we can go back to those lenders and say, can you tie this over again? Because they've been fantastic. Similarly, suppliers, we had to get the balance sheet tidied up in terms of the payment terms. You know, you were on the management committee when we set the thing up right at the start. 3 or 4 months suppliers had to wait, and that's not good for local suppliers, smaller suppliers, the ones we use at this football club. Now they're getting paid on time, and it gives us a firm foundation to move forward, and we can concentrate now on getting the football strategy and getting us where we want to get to in the Premier Division.
People often use the term hard fan, Andy. The people that lend the club money weren't necessarily directors in this instance. It's long connected fans and the business community that lent the club the money to get out of trouble. It's almost fair that we give them a little bit of credit because it's not an easy thing to do.
Well, I think everybody deserves credit at the football club. You know, not just the lenders, not just the board, it's the supporters as well. I mean, they've been through tough times. We've watched the football too, but they've seen the players develop. Now, what we're hoping to try and do, because the football strategy isn't to bring through young players and sell them on. Obviously, you'll have an element of that because players will want to move on. But the real strategy is to make sure that when we get to the Premier Division, we take a group of youngsters that have played together for a number of years, and so we don't have to rebuild when we get to the Premier League. We've seen it all before. Teams going up to the Premier League, having to completely rebuild, bring in 10, 11 players, and that's difficult and expensive. And, football's not, a thing that you would want to just look at the problems that football have had. I mean, there's Motherwell, finished second in the league twice, been in Europe 2 seasons in a row, and they're struggling financially. So we've got to make sure that when we get there, we can stay there. But the most important thing is protecting the financial stability of the club. The club's been around for over 130 years. We want to make sure it's here for another 130.
Andy, you spoke about foundations and building blocks. In order to get to the Premier League, I take it you need your foundations like stable finances, plastic pitch, good stadium, good academy. All these things are in place now. So is the next thing to focus on first team?
Absolutely, and it always has been. What we're trying to do is make sure we've got extra or other streams of revenue because obviously, season tickets and gate receipts are great, but as the chairman said on a number of occasions, we've had to rely on transfers and the cup runs to get us through the tough times. we've been reducing our dependence on those so that hopefully we can get to a situation where we don't have to rely on cup runs and transfer fees, and therefore we can call the shots of when a player should go or a player should stay. Obviously, the player will be a massive part of that decision. If a player wants to go and the club's interested in him, then we've got to look at that and get the best deal for the club. But that puts us in a position to do that. So rather than have to accept an offer that we think, well, is maybe slightly below the value we believe, we can set the terms. And that means that we can do it in a strategic way, and instead of just having to do it to make sure the club keeps running. But then also in terms of things like interest payments, for instance, that money that we've got out in interest payments, you can invest in your first team because you've got your cost base right, your cost is matched to your revenue. So anything extra you generate, we're not going to hang on to it. We're going to invest it in the team or the academy or the players because that's where it should be.